Maya Rodriguez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she lifted another steel beam into place. The beam weighed 300 pounds, but her muscles barely strained under the load. On most worlds, it would take 2 people and a machine to move something this heavy. On New Australia, it was just another day at work. The mining colony sat under a blood-red sky that never seemed to clear. 2 suns burned overhead, making the air thick and hard to breathe. The gravity here pulled twice as hard as Earth normal, which meant everything weighed double what it should. Maya had been born here 24 years ago, and her body had grown strong under the crushing weight of her world. She placed the beam carefully and stepped back to check her work. The new support structure would help keep the mine shafts stable during the next storm season. New Australia had weather that could kill a person in minutes if they got caught outside without proper gear. The winds could reach 200 miles per hour, and the rain was so acidic it could eat through metal. "Maya, you need to see this," called Lisa Parker from across the construction site. Lisa was her oldest friend and the colony's chief medic. She had been studying alien medicine for years, preparing for the day when humans might need to treat other species. Maya jogged over, her heavy boots clanging against the metal walkway. Even this simple movement would have tired most people. But Maya moved with the easy grace of someone who had spent her whole life fighting against crushing gravity and hostile weather. "What is it?" Maya asked, wiping her hands on her work pants. Lisa pointed to the communications building. "There's a ship coming in, a big one, military markings." Maya looked up at the sky. She could see a small dot growing larger as it approached the colony. Military ships rarely came to New Australia unless there was serious trouble. The colony was too far from Earth and too dangerous for casual visits. "Think it's bad news?" Maya asked. "When is it ever good news?" Lisa replied. The ship landed in the colony's main clearing, kicking up a cloud of red dust. Maya watched as the landing ramp lowered and several figures in military uniforms walked out. The lead figure was a tall man with gray hair and the confident walk of someone used to command. Captain Jake Morrison looked around the colony with sharp eyes. He had read the reports about New Australia, but seeing it in person was different. The buildings were built like fortresses, with thick walls and small windows. Everything was designed to keep out the hostile environment that wanted to kill anything that lived here. The colonists who gathered to meet him looked different too. They were all taller and more muscular than normal humans. Their movements were quick and precise, like predators ready to fight or run at any moment. These people had been shaped by their world into something stronger than ordinary humans. "I'm looking for Maya Rodriguez," Captain Morrison said to the crowd. "That's me," Maya said, stepping forward. She was shorter than the captain, but her presence was commanding. Her dark hair was tied back in a practical ponytail, and her brown eyes were alert and watchful. "Captain Jake Morrison, Earth Defense Force," he said, extending his hand. "I need to speak with you privately." Maya shook his hand, noting that he winced slightly at her grip. She had learned to be careful with people from other worlds. What felt normal to her could break bones for someone not used to New Australia's conditions. "We can talk in the administrative building," Maya said. Leading him away from the crowd, Lisa followed them, and Maya didn't object. Whatever this was about, she wanted her friend there to hear it. The administrative building was one of the few places on the colony with air conditioning. Captain Morrison looked relieved as they entered the cooler environment. Maya and Lisa seemed comfortable in either temperature. "How much do you know about the Galactic Federation?" Captain Morrison asked once they were seated. "I know they exist," Maya said. "I know they don't want humans to join them." "That's about to change," the captain said. "They've given us an ultimatum. We have to prove ourselves worthy of membership, or they'll cut us off from all galactic civilization. No trade, no communication, no travel between the stars." Maya frowned. "What kind of proof do they want?" "A tournament. Each species sends their best champion to compete in trials of strength, intelligence, and combat. The winner species gets full membership. The losers get nothing." "And you want me to be Earth's champion?" Maya asked. "You're not just Earth's champion," Captain Morrison said. You're humanity's only hope. He pulled out a datapad and showed her files on other species champions. There was Zexthal, a 9-foot-tall reptilian creature with scales like armor and claws that could cut through steel. There was Vorth, a crystalline being that could reshape its body into weapons. There was Quinder, an energy creature that could phase through solid matter. These are the beings you'd be fighting, Captain Morrison said. They're the strongest, fastest, most dangerous fighters their species can produce. Maya studied the images. Each champion looked terrifying in their own way, but she had been fighting terrifying things her whole life. New Australia was home to creatures that would give nightmares to most civilized beings. Why me? She asked. Because you're the strongest human alive, Captain Morrison said simply. Your world has made you into something beyond normal human. Capabilities, your bone density is 3 times normal. Your muscle fibers are denser than anyone from Earth. Your reflexes are faster than any human we've ever tested. Maya looked at Lisa, who nodded. It's true, Lisa said. I've been running medical tests on everyone in the colony for years. What this place has done to us is incredible. We're still human, but we're human adapted to survive in hell. The tournament isn't just about fighting, Captain Morrison continued. There are trials of intelligence and endurance too. But the final trial is always single combat. Hand-to-hand, no weapons, no armor. Just raw skill and strength. Maya stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the mining operation continuing. People were working in conditions that would kill most humans in minutes. They were lifting weights that would crush normal bones. They were breathing air that would burn normal lungs. What happens if I lose? She asked. Humanity gets cut off? From the stars forever, Captain Morrison said. No space travel, no alien contact, no chance to explore the galaxy. We stay trapped in our own solar system until we die out or destroy ourselves. Maya thought about her friends and neighbors. They had built something amazing here on New Australia. They had taken a world that wanted to kill them and made it into a home. They deserved a chance to see what else was out there among the stars. When do we leave? She asked. Captain Morrison smiled. As soon as you're ready, Lisa stood up. I'm coming with you. Lisa, this is dangerous, Maya said. So, staying here, Lisa replied. Besides, you'll need someone who understands alien biology. If you're going to fight these creatures, you need to know how to hurt them. Maya nodded. Her friend was right. She would need every advantage she could get. There's one more thing, Captain Morrison said. The other species think humans are weak. They've been pushing for our exclusion from the Federation for years. They see us as primitive warmongers who don't deserve to travel among the stars. Then, I'll have to change their minds, Maya said, 3 days later. Maya stood in the cargo bay of the Earth Defense Force ship Endeavour as it prepared to leave New Australia. She had packed light, bringing only the essentials. Her real weapons were her body and her mind, shaped by years of surviving on one of the most dangerous worlds in human space. Lisa stood beside her, carrying medical equipment and files on alien anatomy. Captain Morrison was on the bridge, preparing for the jump to hyperspace that would take them to the tournament. Maya looked out at her homeworld one last time. The red sky, the crushing gravity, the hostile environment that had made her into what she was. She might never see it again, but she would carry its strength with her to the stars. The ship jumped to hyperspace, and Maya Rodriguez began her journey to save humanity's future with nothing but her bare hands and the unbreakable will of a Deathworld survivor. The jump to hyperspace took 3 weeks. Maya spent the time learning everything she could about the species she would face. Captain Morrison had brought detailed files on each champion, and Lisa helped her understand their anatomy and potential. Weaknesses. When the Endeavour dropped out of hyperspace near Nexus Prime, Maya pressed her face against the observation window and stared in wonder. The space station was massive, bigger than any city she had ever seen. It stretched for miles in every direction, with thousands of docking bays and communication arrays reaching out like metal fingers. How many people live there? Maya asked. About 50 million, Captain Morrison replied. Representatives from every species in the Federation. It's the center of galactic civilization. Maya counted dozens of different ship designs around the station. Some were sleek and elegant. Others looked like they had been grown rather than built. A few were so strange she couldn't figure out which end was the front. Those are the other Champions ships, Lisa said, pointing to a cluster of vessels near the main docking ring. We'll be meeting them soon. The Endeavor docked with a soft thud. Maya felt her stomach tighten with nervous energy. She had fought deadly creatures on New Australia, but those were animals acting on instinct. The beings she would face here were intelligent, trained fighters who had prepared their whole lives for this moment. Captain Morrison led them through the docking tunnel into the station proper. The artificial gravity felt light to Maya after spending her whole life under New Australia's crushing weight. Each step wanted to send her bouncing toward the ceiling, but she quickly adjusted her movements. The corridors were filled with beings. From across the galaxy, Maya saw tall, thin creatures with blue skin and multiple arms. There were short, stocky beings covered in what looked like living metal. Some floated in environmental suits filled with colored gas, while others moved on mechanical legs. "Try not to stare," Captain Morrison whispered. Most of them have never seen a human before, but Maya noticed that many of the aliens were staring at her. Their conversations stopped as she passed, and she heard whispers in languages she didn't understand. She walked with the confident stride of someone who had never learned to fear anything, and that seemed to make some of the aliens nervous. Ambassador Helen Brooks met them at the Human Embassy section. She was a tall woman with gray hair and the polished manner of someone who had spent years in diplomatic service. "Maya Rodriguez," she said, extending her hand. "I've heard remarkable things about you." Maya shook her hand carefully. "I hope I can live up to them." "The other champions arrived yesterday," Ambassador Brooks said as she led them through the embassy. "There's been quite a lot of discussion about humanity's entry into the tournament." "What kind of discussion?" Captain Morrison asked. "The kind where most species think we don't belong here," Ambassador Brooks replied. "They see humans as violent primitives who haven't evolved beyond warfare. Some are calling for our exclusion before the tournament even begins." Maya felt anger rise in her chest. "Maybe I should introduce myself to them." "Actually, that's exactly what we're going to do," Ambassador Brooks said. "There's a gathering tonight where all the champions will." "Neat." "It's supposed to be a peaceful introduction, but I suspect there will be challenges." That evening, Maya found herself in the station's central hall, a massive space with a transparent dome that showed the stars beyond. The other champions were already there, surrounded by their diplomatic teams and support staff. Zexthel stood near the center of the room, dominating the space around him. He was even more impressive in person than in the files. His scales were dark green and looked harder than armor. His claws were retracted but still visible as deadly points at the tips of his fingers. When he moved, Maya could see the powerful muscles beneath his scaled skin. "That's the Saurian champion," Lisa whispered. "He's won the tournament 3 times in a row." Maya studied him carefully. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight, but she noticed that his movements were slightly stiff. His species had evolved for power rather than flexibility. Arthur, the crystalline champion, stood nearby. His body was transparent and seemed to shift shape slightly as Maya watched. One moment he looked humanoid. The next his arms had become longer and sharper. His species could reshape their bodies at will, turning into living weapons. Quinder floated in a containment field, his energy form crackling with power. He looked like living lightning trapped in a bottle. Maya wondered how you could fight something that could phase through solid matter. "The human champion," a deep voice said behind her. Maya turned to see Zexthel approaching. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His head was shaped like a predator's with yellow eyes that seemed to see everything. His mouth was full of sharp teeth designed for tearing meat. "I am Zexthel of the Saurian Empire," he said. "I have heard your species wishes to join the Federation." "That's right," Maya said, meeting his gaze without flinching. Your species is young and weak, Zexthel continued. You have barely left your home system. What makes you think you deserve to stand among the true powers of the galaxy? The room had gone quiet. Maya could feel dozens of alien eyes watching her response. This was her first test, and she knew that how she handled it would set the tone for everything that followed. Why don't we find out? Maya said calmly. Zexthel's eyes narrowed. You challenge me? I'm suggesting we settle this question right now, Maya replied. Arm wrestling. Simple test of strength. A murmur ran through the crowd. Zexthel was famous for his physical power. His species had conquered 12 worlds through personal combat, and he had never lost a contest of strength. Very well, Zexthel said. When you lose, you will admit that humans are too weak to compete here. And when I win, Maya said, you'll admit that maybe you don't know as much about humans as you think. A table was quickly brought over. Maya and Zexthel sat across from each other, their hands meeting in the center. The Saurian's hand was twice the size of Maya's, with scales that felt like stone and muscles that could crush steel. Begin, announced one of the tournament officials. Zexthel immediately applied pressure, confident that his superior size and strength would end the contest quickly. Maya felt the enormous force of his grip, but she had been preparing for this moment her whole life without knowing it. Years of lifting mining equipment under crushing gravity had built her muscles into something beyond normal human capability. More importantly, she understood leverage and technique in ways that most beings never learned. On New Australia, raw strength alone would get you killed. You had to be smart about how you used your power. Maya shifted her grip slightly, changing the angle of force. She used her body weight and the strength of her entire arm and shoulder, not just her hand. Slowly, steadily, she began to push Zexthel's hand toward the table. The Saurian's eyes widened in surprise. He applied more pressure, his muscles straining visibly. But Maya's technique was perfect, and her Deathworld conditioning had made her stronger than any normal human had a right to be. With a final surge of power, Maya slammed Zexthel's hand down onto the table. The sound echoed through the silent hall like a gunshot. The crowd erupted in shocked conversation. Zexthel stared at his hand in disbelief, then looked at Maya with new respect. Impossible, he said quietly. Not impossible, Maya replied, standing up. Just human. She walked away from the table, leaving Zexthel to contemplate his first defeat in years. The other champions watched her with new interest. The small human female had just beaten the most feared warrior in the galaxy with nothing but technique and determination. Ambassador Brooks smiled as she watched the alien delegates talking excitedly among themselves. The political situation had just changed dramatically. Some species were already reconsidering their opposition to human membership. Captain Morrison found Maya near the observation windows, looking out at the stars. That was well done, he said. You've made quite an impression. The real test starts tomorrow, Maya replied. That was just the warm-up. Lisa joined them, carrying a medical scanner. I took readings during the contest, she said. Your heart rate barely elevated. Your muscle fibers showed perfect coordination. Yeah, I don't think you're even close to your limits yet. Maya nodded, but her attention was focused on the stars beyond the window. Somewhere out there was Earth and New Australia, and millions of humans who were counting on her to succeed. Tomorrow the trials would begin, and she would find out if a Deathworld girl could stand against the galaxy's greatest champions. But tonight she had already proven that humans were not to be underestimated. The galaxy was about to learn. What happened when you cornered a predator from a world that bred survivors? The first trial began at dawn, station time. Maya stood with the other champions in a large chamber that looked like it had been carved from solid rock. The walls were covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift and change as she watched them. Welcome to the trial of mind, announced the tournament master, a being that looked like a walking tree with glowing eyes. Each champion will face a different challenge designed to test your ability to think under pressure. You have 1 hour to complete your trial or face elimination. Maya felt her heart rate increase slightly. Physical challenges she understood, but tests of intelligence worried her. She had grown up working in mines, not studying in schools. Most of her education had come from survival experience rather than books. Champions, enter your testing chambers, the tournament master continued. Maya walked into a room that immediately sealed behind her. The walls were smooth metal, and the only light came from panels in the ceiling. In the center of the room stood a pedestal with a small device that looked like a puzzle box. Your challenge is simple, a voice said from hidden speakers. Navigate the maze and reach the exit. But beware, the maze is filled with traps designed to kill. One wrong step means elimination. The floor beneath Maya's feet suddenly became transparent. Below her was a massive maze that stretched in all directions. She could see corridors branching off in dozens of directions, with moving walls, spinning blades, and other deadly obstacles. You may begin, the voice announced. Maya stepped onto a platform that lowered her into the maze. The moment her feet touched the ground, she heard a grinding sound as walls began to move. She had to start moving or be crushed. The first corridor seemed safe enough, but Maya had learned on New Australia that safe appearances often hid deadly traps. She picked up a small stone and threw it ahead of her. Immediately, spikes shot out of the walls where the stone had landed. Maya smiled grimly. This was just like navigating the crystal caves back home, where one wrong step could trigger a collapse that would bury you alive. She had developed a system for dealing with unknown dangers: observe, test, and move carefully. She threw another stone, this time to the right, no traps triggered. She moved forward slowly, testing each step before putting her full weight down. The maze was trying to force her to move quickly, but Maya had learned patience from hunting New Australia's most dangerous predators. In the observation chamber above, the tournament officials watched in fascination. Most champions attacked the maze with advanced technology or special abilities. The crystalline champion had reshaped his body into a drill and was boring through walls. The energy champion was phasing through obstacles, but Maya was doing something different. She was reading the maze like a living thing, looking for patterns and weaknesses. When she came to a corridor filled with swinging blades, she didn't try to run through them. Instead, she studied their timing until she found the rhythm, then moved through them with the fluid grace of someone who had dodged the snapping jaws of razor wolves. Interesting, said Commander Alex Turner, watching from the human delegation. She's not just solving the maze, she's understanding it. Maya reached a chamber where the floor was covered in pressure plates. Step on the wrong one and jets of flame would shoot from the walls. Other champions might have tried to leap across or find some technological solution. Maya got down on her hands and knees and examined the plates carefully. Each plate was slightly different in color and texture. Maya had learned to read subtle differences in her environment because on New Australia, the difference between safe ground and deadly quicksand could be measured in tiny variations of color and texture. She found the safe path and walked across the chamber without triggering a single trap. The maze was trying to kill her, but it was nothing compared to the natural death traps of her homeworld. The final challenge was a massive, rotating cylinder filled with moving platforms and spinning obstacles. Maya watched the pattern for several minutes, timing each movement. Then she began to move, flowing through the deadly machinery like water finding its way downhill. She emerged from the maze in 42 minutes. The first champion to complete the trial. The tournament officials looked shocked. The maze had been designed to challenge beings with advanced technology and psychic abilities. They had not expected a human to solve it through pure observation and instinct. The second trial began immediately. Maya and the remaining champions were taken to a chamber that simulated the surface of a hostile world. The gravity was crushing, the air was thin, and the temperature swung between freezing and burning. The trial of endurance, the tournament master announced. You must carry these containers to the far side of the testing ground. The containers weigh 500 pounds each. The distance is 10 miles. You have 4 hours. Maya looked at the container assigned to her. It was made of some kind of dense metal and had handles on the sides. 500 pounds would have been heavy even on New Australia. Here, under the crushing artificial gravity, it felt like trying to lift a mountain. The other champions were already struggling. Vorth had reshaped his body into a more muscular form, but even he was straining under the weight. Quinder had solidified his energy form to maximum density, but he was moving slowly. Zexthal's powerful muscles were bulging with effort. Maya lifted her container and began to walk. The weight was incredible, but she had been lifting heavy objects her entire life. More importantly, she knew how to pace herself. The other champions were trying to move as quickly as possible, but Maya understood that this was a marathon, not a sprint. After the first mile, Crush, the hulking champion from the methane worlds, collapsed. His species was incredibly strong, but they had evolved in low gravity. The crushing weight of the trial was too much for his body to handle. After the second mile, 2 more champions fell out. Maya was now in third place behind Zexthal and Vorth, but she noticed that both of them were slowing down. Their breathing was labored and their movements were becoming clumsy. Maya, on the other hand, was just getting started. Her cardiovascular system had been built to function under New Australia's crushing atmosphere. Her muscles had been trained to work under twice normal gravity. What was torture for the other champions was just a hard day's work for her. By the 5th mile, Maya had taken the lead. Zexthal was still moving, but his scales were changing color, a sign of extreme stress in his species. Vorth's crystalline form was developing cracks from the strain. Lisa watched from the observation deck, monitoring Maya's vital signs on a medical scanner. Her heart rate is steady, she reported to Commander Turner. Her muscle efficiency is actually improving as she adapts to the artificial gravity. How is that possible? Turner asked. She's not adapted to normal conditions, Lisa explained. She's adapted to survive in hell. This trial is actually easier than her normal living conditions. Maya reached the halfway point while the other champions were still struggling through. The 4th mile. She set her container down and took a short rest, but she wasn't tired. She was thinking about the pattern of the trials so far. The trial of mind had tested problem-solving ability. The trial of endurance was testing physical capability, but Maya suspected that the real test was how each champion handled pressure and adversity. The Federation wasn't just looking for strong fighters. They were looking for beings who could represent their species with honor and determination. When Maya picked up her container and continued walking, she wasn't just trying to win the trial. She was showing the galaxy what humans were capable of when they refused to give up. She finished the trial in 2 hours and 37 minutes, almost an hour ahead of Zexthal, who came in second. The other champions were still struggling. Through the middle miles, when Maya crossed the finish line, the tournament officials were speechless. They had designed the trial to push even the strongest champions to their limits. Maya had completed it looking like she could do it again immediately. Impossible, whispered one of the officials. No being should be able to perform at that level. But Maya wasn't done surprising them. Instead of celebrating her victory, she walked back along the course to help the struggling champions. She found Quender collapsed near the 8-mile mark, his energy form flickering weakly. Come on, Maya said, lifting part of his container. We finished this together. She helped him reach the finish line, then went back for the others. By the time the trial was officially over, Maya had helped 3 other champions complete the course. Zexthal watched her with something that might have been respect. Why did you help them? He asked. Because that's what you do, Maya replied simply. You help people who need help. The political implications of Maya's performance were already spreading through the station. Species that had opposed human membership were quietly changing their positions. If one human could dominate the trials while still showing mercy to her competitors, what could humanity accomplish as full members of the Federation? Maya didn't care about politics. She cared about the final trial that was coming tomorrow. The trial of combat, where she would face the galaxy's greatest fighters with nothing but her bare hands and the unbreakable will of a Deathworld. Survivor. She had passed the first 2 trials, but the hardest test was still ahead. The final trial took place in a massive spherical arena with transparent walls. Thousands of spectators from across the galaxy filled the observation decks. Maya had never seen so many different species in one place. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien she couldn't tell which end was the head. Only 4 champions remained. Maya, Zexthel, Vorth the crystalline shapeshifter, and Quinder the energy being. The others had failed the previous trials or been eliminated for various reasons. "Welcome to the trial of combat," announced the tournament master. "Each fight will be single elimination. No weapons, no armor, no outside assistance. Victory comes through submission, unconsciousness, or death. The arena conditions will change for each fight to test your adaptability." Maya felt her stomach tighten. She had fought dangerous creatures on New Australia, but those were animals. These were intelligent beings who had trained their entire lives for combat. Each one represented the pinnacle of their species' fighting ability. "The first match will be Vlaria Rodriguez versus Quinder." The tournament master continued. Maya walked onto the arena floor. The surface was smooth metal that reflected the lights above. Quinder floated down from the opposite side, his energy form crackling with power. Up close, he looked like living lightning trapped in a roughly humanoid shape. "Begin the tournament." Master called. Quinder immediately phased through the floor and disappeared. Maya spun around, trying to track his movement. Fighting an enemy you couldn't see or touch was like trying to punch the wind, the energy being materialized behind her, and launched a bolt of electricity. Maya threw herself to the side, feeling the heat as the bolt passed inches from her head. The attack left scorch marks on the arena wall. Maya rolled to her feet and started moving. On New Australia, standing still meant death. The ghost cats could phase through solid rock, and the only way to fight them was to keep moving and wait for them to make a mistake. Quinder phased through the floor again. Maya watched carefully, looking for any sign of his position. There, a slight shimmer. In the air. The energy being was moving through the arena's structure, but he was still affecting the electromagnetic fields around him. When Quinder materialized for his next attack, Maya was ready. Instead of dodging away, she dove toward him. The energy being's attack missed, and for a split second he was solid and vulnerable. Maya's tackle sent them both crashing to the arena floor. Quinder tried to phase through her, but Maya had learned something important from watching his previous fights. He had to be solid to deliver physical attacks, and there was always a brief moment between solid and energy states. She grabbed him in a wrestling hold that Lisa had helped her practice. The grip targeted pressure points that would work on most humanoid species. Quinder struggled to break free, his form flickering between energy and matter. "Submit," Maya said through gritted teeth. Quinder's energy form stabilized as he realized he couldn't escape. "I yield," he said, his voice like crackling static. Maya released him and helped him to his feet. The crowd was silent, then erupted in cheers and surprised conversation. The human had defeated an energy being through pure grappling technique. The second match was Zexthel versus Vorth. The Saurian champion's raw power met the crystalline being's adaptability in a fight that shook the arena. Vorth reshaped his body into various weapon forms, but Zexthel's experience and brutal strength eventually wore him down. The crystalline champion submitted after Zexthel cracked his arm with a devastating blow. Maya watched the fight carefully, studying both combatants. Zexthel was incredibly strong and experienced, but his movements were slightly predictable. He relied on power and intimidation rather than technique. Vorth had been creative but had exhausted himself with constant shape changes. The arena was reconfigured for the final match. The smooth floor was replaced with a rough, rocky surface. The gravity was increased to 3 times normal, and the air was made thinner. The tournament officials wanted to test both champions under extreme conditions. "The final match," the tournament master announced, "Maya Rodriguez versus Zexthel. The winner becomes the new tournament champion and secures their species place in the Federation." Maya and Zexthel faced each other across the arena. The Saurian champion looked even more impressive under the increased gravity. His powerful muscles were built for exactly these conditions. His scales gleamed like armor, and his claws were extended, ready for combat. "You fought well in the trials," Zexthel said. "But this is different. This is real combat." I have killed in the arena before. So have I, Maya replied quietly. The truth was, she had killed before. Not other people, but the deadly predators of New Australia. She had fought creatures that could tear through steel with their claws, beasts that could crush bones with their bite. She had learned that in a life-or-death fight, hesitation meant death. Begin, the tournament master called. Zexthel charged. Immediately, using his size and strength advantage, his claws swept toward Maya's head in an attack that could have decapitated her. But Maya wasn't there when the attack arrived. She had dropped low and moved to the side, using footwork that Lisa had helped her study from human martial arts. The increased gravity that slowed other beings down was familiar to Maya. She had lived her entire life under crushing weight. Zexthel's momentum carried him past her. Maya struck at his knee joint, targeting the gap between his scales. The blow would have shattered a human's leg, but Zexthel's bones were denser. Still, he stumbled slightly. The Saurian champion spun around, his tail whipping toward Maya's legs. She jumped over the tail and landed in a crouch, already moving again. Standing still against a larger opponent was suicide. "Fight me properly," Zexthel growled. "Stop running." Maya didn't respond. She was studying his patterns, learning his rhythms. Every fighter had habits, tells that revealed their next move. Zexthel was skilled, but he was used to winning through intimidation and raw power. He had never faced an opponent who refused to be intimidated. Zexthel charged again, this time with both claws extended. Maya waited until the last second, then stepped into his attack instead of away from it. The move surprised him, throwing off his timing. Maya grabbed his right arm and used his own momentum against him, throwing him to the ground with a technique. That would have been impossible against a smaller opponent. But Zexthel's size worked against him here. The bigger they were, the harder they fell. The Saurian champion hit the rocky ground hard, but rolled to his feet immediately. His yellow eyes were blazing with anger now. No one had ever thrown him before. "Impossible," he snarled. "You are too small, too weak." "Size isn't everything," Maya said, circling him carefully. Zexthel's next attack was more controlled. He had learned to respect Maya's speed and technique. His claws moved in precise patterns, trying to corner her and limit her mobility. Maya gave ground slowly, letting him think he was gaining the advantage. She was waiting for the right moment, the perfect opportunity. On New Australia, patience was the difference between successful hunters and dead ones. The moment came when Zexthel overextended slightly, putting too much weight behind a claw strike. Maya caught his wrist and twisted, using leverage and technique. To hyperextend his elbow joint, Zexthel roared in pain and surprise. Maya could have broken his arm easily, but she held the position, applying just enough pressure to cause intense pain without permanent damage. "Submit," she said calmly. For a long moment, Zexthel struggled against the hold. His pride warred with the reality of his situation. Maya's grip was unbreakable, and any movement would only increase the pain. Finally, the great champion's shoulders sagged in defeat. "I yield," he said quietly. Maya released him immediately and stepped back. The arena was completely silent. The greatest champion in galactic history had just been defeated by a human female, who barely came up to his chest. Then the cheers began. Not just from the human delegation, but from beings throughout the observation decks. Maya had shown not just strength and skill, but honor and victory. She could have broken Zexthel's arm, but had chosen mercy instead. Zexthel stood slowly, cradling his injured arm. He looked at Maya with something that might have been respect, or perhaps understanding. "How?" he asked simply. "I grew up fighting things that wanted to kill me," Maya said. "You grew up fighting things that were afraid of you. There's a difference." The tournament master's voice echoed through the arena. "The new champion is Maya Rodriguez of Earth. Humanity has earned its place in the Galactic Federation." Maya looked up at the observation decks where Captain Morrison, Lisa, and Ambassador Brooks were cheering. She had done it. Humanity would join the Federation, and her people would have access to the stars. But as she helped Zexthel off the arena floor, Maya realized that the real victory wasn't in winning the tournament. It was in showing the galaxy that humans could be both strong and merciful, both determined and honorable. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could accomplish when they put their minds to it. The ceremony hall was filled with representatives from every species in the galaxy. Maya stood on a raised platform wearing simple clothes from her homeworld. She had refused the fancy robes that the tournament officials offered her. She was proud of where she came from and wanted everyone to know it. Maya Rodriguez of Earth, the Federation president announced, you have earned the right to become tournament champion and hold that title for the next cycle. Do you accept this honor? Maya looked out at the crowd. She could see Captain Morrison and Lisa in the front row, both beaming with pride. Ambassador Brooks was talking quietly with several alien diplomats who had spent the last few days changing their opinions about humanity. I'm honored by the offer, Maya said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. But I didn't come here to become champion. I came here to prove that humans deserve a place among the stars. That's been accomplished. A murmur ran through the crowd. No one had ever refused the championship before. Instead, Maya continued, I ask that the title remain with Sexthel. He has earned it through years of honorable combat. I just proved that humans can compete at this level. Zextel stepped forward from the crowd. His arm was in a medical support device, but he held himself with dignity. I cannot accept a title I did not earn in combat, he said. You defeated me fairly, Maya Rodriguez. The championship is yours by right. Then let's do something different. Maya said, let's make this tournament about more than just fighting. Let's make it about cooperation between species. She turned to address the Federation Council directly. Humanity wants to join the Federation not to dominate it, but to contribute. To it, we want to learn from other species and share what we know. The tournament should be about bringing people together, not driving them apart. The Federation president looked uncertain. This was not how tournament ceremonies normally went. But Maya's victory had already changed many things about how the galaxy viewed humans. What do you propose? The president asked. Make the tournament a celebration of what each species brings to the Federation, Maya said. Test not just combat ability, but problem-solving, endurance, creativity, and cooperation. Let species work together instead of just fighting each other. Zexthel nodded slowly. The human speaks wisdom. My people have learned much from combat, but perhaps it is time to learn from other forms of strength as well. The crowd was buzzing with conversation. Maya's proposal was revolutionary. For centuries, the tournament had been about proving dominance through fighting. She was suggesting something completely different. Ambassador Brooks stood up from her seat. The human delegation supports this proposal. We believe the Federation is stronger when its members work together rather than compete against each other. One by one, other species representatives began to stand. The crystalline people who valued artistic creation, the gas dwellers who were master engineers, even the energy beings who understood science in ways others couldn't imagine, the Federation. President called for a formal vote. When the results were announced, Maya's proposal had passed by an overwhelming majority. The tournament would be reformed to emphasize cooperation and diverse strengths rather than just combat ability. There is still the matter of humanity's membership, the president said. The tournament was meant to decide this question. I think it already has, said a new voice from the crowd. Everyone turned to see who had spoken. It was Vorth the Crystalline. Champion Maya had defeated in the earlier trials. He stood up slowly, his translucent body reflecting the lights of the ceremony hall. This human could have broken my arm during our fight, Vorth said. She could have seriously injured me. Instead, she used just enough force to win and no more. That shows wisdom and restraint. Quinder's energy form flickered as he spoke next. She helped me complete the endurance trial when I was failing. She could have left me to be eliminated, but she chose to help instead. That shows compassion. She studied our weaknesses and fighting styles, added another champion. But she also learned our names and tried to understand our cultures. That shows respect. Zexthel stepped forward again. And when she defeated me, she could have humiliated me in front of the galaxy. Instead, she offered to let me keep my title. That shows honor. The Federation president looked around the hall. It seems the tournament has indeed decided the question. All in favor of granting humanity full membership in the Galactic Federation? The vote was unanimous. Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. She had done it. Humanity would join the Federation with full rights and privileges. Her people would have access to galactic technology, trade, and knowledge. The stars were no longer forbidden to them, but the ceremony wasn't over yet. As Maya was about to step down from the platform, Zexthel approached her. "There's one more thing," he said loudly. "Enough for everyone to hear. My people have a tradition. When a warrior defeats us in honorable combat, we offer them friendship and alliance. Maya Rodriguez, the Saurian Empire, would be honored to call humanity our allies." Other species quickly followed suit. The crystalline people offered to share their artistic knowledge. The gas dwellers wanted to exchange engineering techniques. The energy beings proposed joint scientific research projects. Maya looked out at the crowd of alien faces, each representing civilizations that spanned thousands of worlds. A week ago, most of them had considered humans to be primitive warmongers. Now they were offering friendship and cooperation. "Thank you," Maya said simply. "We accept your friendship and we offer ours in return." Later that evening, Maya stood in the observation deck of the Endeavor as it prepared to depart Nexus Prime. Lisa joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee from Earth. "So what happens now?" Lisa asked. "Now we go home," Maya said, accepting the coffee gratefully. "I have work to finish at the mine." "You're just going back to work? After everything that's happened?" Maya smiled. "Lisa, I never wanted to be a galactic champion. I just wanted to make sure my people had a chance to reach for the stars. That's done now." "But you could have anything you want," Lisa protested. "Any position in the Federation, any world to live on. You could be famous across the galaxy." "I am famous across the galaxy," Maya said, "but fame isn't what matters. What matters is that human children will grow up knowing they can travel to other worlds, learn from other species, and be part of something bigger than just Earth." Captain Morrison joined them on the observation deck. "The Federation Council has sent formal invitations for cultural and scientific exchanges," he reported. "Dozens of species want to work with us. They're particularly interested in our medical knowledge and survival techniques." "Good," Maya said. "We have a lot to learn from them too." As the Endeavor jumped to hyperspace, Maya thought about everything that had changed in just a few weeks. She had left New Australia as a reluctant representative of her species. She was returning as the person who had opened the galaxy to humanity, but the most important thing hadn't changed at all. She was still Maya Rodriguez from New Australia, a miner who had grown up fighting deadly creatures under crushing gravity. That would always be part of who she was. No matter how far she traveled among the stars, the galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and now humans could explore all of it. They would face new challenges and discover new worlds. Some would become diplomats, others would become traders or scientists or explorers. And if any of them ever forgot what it meant to be human, they could look back at the story of the Deathworld. Girl who faced the galaxy's greatest, champions with nothing but her bare hands and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. 3 weeks later, Maya was back at work in the mines of New Australia. The red sky burned overhead, the gravity crushed down on everything, and the air was still thick and hard to breathe. But now, when Maya looked up at the stars, she knew that humans were welcome among them. And sometimes that made all the difference in the world.